Cyber Innovations in the Private Sector highlights case studies and the latest industry trends from private vendors. Explore innovative solutions, success stories, and exclusive insights from industry leaders. Stay ahead with the cutting-edge developments driving the industry forward.
So Pramod, thank you for joining us.
Thanks a lot for having me. As a way of introduction, I am Pramod Gosavi. I'm an investor right now at Bloomberg Capital. I invest in all things AI. Also looking at cybersecurity from an AI angle. Happy to chat about cybersecurity investments and AI.
You describe yourself as a forward-deployed investor. What does it mean in practice, and how does it shape the way you engage with founders?
Yeah, so the reason I changed my title to forward deployed is just my observation over my investing career so far, the last 3 to 5 years. So different investors, they approach the market and investment differently. The way I approach the market is really what we call as a prepared mind. So we spend a lot of time looking at markets even before we reach out to companies, figure out what's going on in the market. Are there any disruptions? So the way I describe self-deployed is like you have to immerse yourself in the industry, starting first, learn about what it is. You have to like the industry. You have to like the company, and after you make the investment, also a lot of investors they just attend board meetings and they help out with financing and maybe recruitment. But for me, it's even more. It's almost I call myself as an extended part of the team, where I'm constantly following the market, constantly following what's going on, coming up with recommendations on product, messaging, customers, right? So that's why I call myself forward deployed. Is like each of my investments, even if there's no board meetings, I'm spending a lot of time actually in that industry, trying to help the company out.
That's great. And you've transitioned from product management and engineer to venture investing. How has your technical background influenced your investment decisions?
Yeah, it helps a lot, particularly at the early stages. A lot of times we meet founders, we don't have anything. They come up with an idea, and sometimes it just they're using a technology to solve a problem. So you need to really understand what it is. And the other important thing is also at an early stages, the founders want somebody they can chat with, they can discuss, they can get feedback, right? So I think that really helps me with my technical background compared to other investors who maybe come from consulting, banking, finance background. I mean, nothing against them. It's just that, depending on the founders that you are partnering with, a lot of them, they like to talk about technology. They want an active partner. They want someone not like a passive, like a financier, right? So that helps a lot. And other way the technical background helps me is since I was part of a couple of early stage startups, I can really relate to how the product is being built, right? So a lot of other investors, they think that, startups, they're doing rocket science, you'll suddenly see a rocket ship 2 weeks after you fund the company, right? But having been in the trenches and build a product from 0 to 1, I understand how the product development starts. So that helps me actually relate more, but at the same time also I can see that if the execution is not going well, right? So if I see that the founders are not making the right decisions, don't have the right team, that also helps manage the companies better.
Looking at your portfolio, companies like Jupiter One and Strike Ready, what common traits do you see in the founders who build successful enterprise solutions?
Yeah, with enterprises, we definitely look for some amount of domain expertise. The enterprise sales, when you go to sell to a customer, yes, there are a lot of outsiders that have done well with a different mindset, but you need someone on the team that has done the same thing, both in terms of Jupiter One and Strike Ready, the founders were security people. They've been in security for a long time, 10 plus years. And that's the only thing that they've done their whole career. So, and also like a lot of passion for what they're doing. So that's definitely something that we look for. The other thing that we look for is really an ambition and a vision, right? In Strike Ready, they came up with AI in SOC in 2020 when nobody was talking about it. When ChatGPT came out and then the Copilot became a norm, but these guys are talking about the Copilot in 2020. So they had that vision that, hey, this is how cybersecurity operations need to be done. And then in case of Jupiter-1, the whole vision was, you're going in blind, you're going top down. Cloud security, you need to go bottoms up. You need to do a much better job managing the assets, understanding your assets. So those are the two things. Is just to sum it up, a background, a good deep background really helps, and then on top of that, having a fresh vision, more aligned towards where the industry is going versus where it is today or where it was yesterday.
And given your experience at VMware and Seagate, how do you see large corporations and startups collaborating in today's cybersecurity ecosystem?
It really depends on the product. I'm a big fan of founders collaborating with big companies, but taking more of a market view, because the large company, they don't move very fast. They wait to see if a particular trend is real. They want to see some success, so they always are conservative. So that would mean like they get into something like maybe a year or 2 years after it starts, right? And startup, they really start very, very early. So the way to work with large companies is really align with their platform, right? So unless you're building something like totally net new where there's really no collaboration, but in any case, I think the enterprise products are very much intertwined, right? So a very simple collaboration is like, if you're building any kind of security product, you need to partner with Splunk for the SIM, right? You need to partner with a couple of other products like network or identity or endpoint for just getting the signals or pushing signals, right? So I'm a big fan of not trying to innovate and say like, hey, look, it's a totally new product. I just don't want to work with the large companies. They're slow. But if you take it from a technology angle and you take from a customer angle, I think that moves much faster. A lot of times you see founders, they'll reach out to corp dev, they'll reach out to GM, they'll try to reach out to the CEOs of the large companies, and that's not a good place to start. The good place to start is really, be part of the technology development program, do all the integrations, and play well and fair with those companies in the market, right? A lot of the founders, they will not talk very nicely about the competitors because they want to sell their product, but at the early stages, it's always better to work with the large companies, and they're spending a lot of money in sales and marketing, so you might as well take advantage of that.
If you were to advise a first-time cybersecurity founder today, what's the one piece of advice you would offer?
Yeah, I think what is happening in cybersecurity, the markets, every single product, every single market is very crowded, right? So, and information is also very leaky. Somebody starts a company with a unique insight, and then in a few months, as they start going to customers, the customers start learning about it, and there's a lot of leakiness in the system. So within a year, you suddenly see like 5, 6, 7 companies come up in the space. My advice is to really be close to the customers, like be close to a few customers that really understand your pain point. Involve the customers actually within your solution, make them your fans and evangelists, right? So if your customers are not really sold on what you're doing, they really don't trust you, then they go to some other solutions. So be very close to your customers, become their partner, engage them, involve them in the solution building, make sure that you're tight with them, right? And you solve their problem, versus just like, hey, I'm talking to so and so, we are doing a POC, and things are not going that well, right? In that case, there's no loyalty, and because there's so much crowding of other vendors, that's where you'll start losing your customers.
How do you foresee the transatlantic collaboration with the US ecosystem?
Yeah, so this is something that I have seen over the last 4 or 5 years, right? So there's a lot of good founders in Europe. They build good products. I think the challenge for them is really, where do they start? Do they start with European customers, or do they start with US customers, right? So, and what I've seen is that the European customers are a bit empathetic about the companies there. They understand that, hey, these companies are local. They understand the regulations and the market really well. So they tend to be a bit sympathetic with those companies. And I've seen a lot of companies get traction very quickly in Europe. And they build a product for the local market, but then they get to like a couple of million revenue, even more, and now they want to raise a lot of money. And as you know, like US is the capital markets are very efficient here. So they say, I want to come to US. They want to raise $50 million, right? I want to scale, but that's where the chicken and egg problem is. Like, hey, you have not sold in the US market. You have sold mainly in European market. Is the product the same product applicable here, right? So that is one debate that I have with a lot of those founders, is like, when do you come to US? If you see some of the companies that have done well, and they've stayed in Europe actually for a while, and then come to US. So I feel like there is a window where you can move, like either it's very, very early where you start doing this transatlantic collaboration very early, or then there's a window that you're just not a fit, and then once you become really, really big, then you can come to US.
There is a big buzzword around here in Europe talking about digital sovereignty and having technology made and stayed in EU soil. Do you have something like that in America?
We have, but we are not that strict as Europe with regards to data sovereignty and privacy. I mean, we do have it, like the data needs to sit here. I think the problem with Europe is a lot of small countries, and things change within the boundaries, and you have users kind of going back and forth and moving across the countries, right? So we do have it. It just, it's a big country, and it's much easier to implement here versus in Europe. The other problem is also, I think the main issue is a lot of founders, they don't want to create two different product sets, right? So if you have to like actually build for data sovereignty, you have to host the product in a data center or a cloud in that country. So it ends up becoming like two different products, right? And maintaining two different products. So that's one thing that a lot of early stage founders in US, they don't like maintaining two different product sets and operating, right? And that's one of the reason why a lot of times they will say, hey, we don't actually respect the data sovereignty in every country.
Pramod Gosavi, Senior Principal at Bloomberg Capital, thank you for sharing your insights with us today.
Thanks a lot for having me. It was fun chatting with you, and wish you best of luck with all of your endeavors.